So we do see that the number has grown, which is fabulous. And so thank you all so much for being here this evening. And truly, thank you, because, looking out the window here, I could imagine that you might have a long list of great activities to be doing tonight in this weather, but you're taking time to spend with us. So we greatly appreciate that. And so let's get started. Your time is valuable. So we really want to make sure that we provide as best we can the service that we can this evening. And so my name is Dr. Tara Morlando Zerlo. I'm the director of Red Hawk Central. So welcome to this parent and family information session. Let me introduce the two other awesome individuals with us this evening who are going to help with this experience. Sean, can you share your info?
Sure can. Yeah, welcome, folks. Really excited to have you also. My name is Sean Heller. I am the Associate Director for Red Hawk Central. Really excited to share some information with you as well. And also with us, I'll pass it off to one of our student workers just in case there's questions about perspective and certainly from a different angle. So I'll throw it over to you, Dipali.
Hi, my name is Dipali. I'm a senior here at Montclair State University, and I work for Red Hawk Central as a CSA.
Thank you, Dipali, very much for being here. She is going to be really kind of the power behind the chat as much as possible this evening. So depending on the questions that you're throwing in, certainly what can be answered instantly, we will. If there's any follow-up needed, we'll also be able to connect you that way so we can wrap around and give you some help. So I think without further ado, I see there's about 20 folks with us. Fabulous. Sean, if you don't mind kicking us off, and we do up front just ask for your patience if there should be some technical behind the curtain challenges. As with any experience, I guess it's a good metaphor for you all figuring out how to help navigate your students as they start their time with us. With every presentation, there tends to always be a little bit of a pivot or two, but we're gonna make it work. So let's get started. And so Red Hawk Central, we're all about the business of being a student, finding your way, figuring out how to make it work. And our office is here to really help get that accomplished. So let's talk a little bit about how we can actually work to support you and your students in making that happen. And sorry, y'all, give me a second because our first pivot is already here where I can't quite advance the slides, but it's a fabulous puzzle that we're all looking at. Let's see. Sean, do you have any control? Are you able to just humor me and
Sure can. Do you want to say one more time if you're able to?
Sure, let me try one more time. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
If it doesn't work, I'll just be the control.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, can you just push for me? My apologies. Otherwise, we're gonna have to act it out, y'all. A little pantomime. Okay, so for today's presentation, let's jump right in. We're going to talk a little bit about Red Hawk Central. We're going to talk about wayfinding, the concept of the business of being a student, and some of the top level information that we would really want you and or your students, if they're with us as well this evening, to know or to reflect back on and think about. Also who we serve and how we get that done, and then just connecting with us and the resources that we have available. That's really what we want to package and talk about, just to really give you a landing point and a starting point for the journey ahead. If you can move, Sean. Thank you. So who do we serve? This is just a little bit of a snapshot to give you a sense of the breadth of actually what our operation entails. So as you can see on here, there's actually quite a spectrum of different cohorts of students that Red Hawk Central actually works with. So we are a one-stop front-facing unit that supports questions about billing, financial aid, student accounts, and then, to be honest with you, a lot of other general questions, resource information, how do I connect and find what I need to do? And we do that for all of these different groups of students, and we're proud to do that. So whether you're here with us this evening as a family member or a friend of a incoming freshman or transfer or a vet military student, any of the above, we're excited to work with you. All right, so who we are, darn it, I think I spoiled the lead there, but so we're a centralized front-facing unit. If any of you had the opportunity to come to any of our open house events and or the accepted student days, you may have gotten the opportunity to come past us here in Cole Hall. We're actually located, front and center in the middle of our beautiful atrium. So we're a centralized location, and we're front-facing because our team actually really does the, front line support for the questions regarding billing, financial aid, registration, plus any other number of issues and questions. And really, we're there to help manage students, help students manage really the business of being a student. So what their account looks like, how do they navigate their processes and procedures? What do they need to understand to really make it a powerful experience for them? That's what we do. So we're helping to combine any services and processes with the journey that they're taking. And we're always excited to do that. So we're going to do a quick little, this is a little montage ad just to give a sense of what our operation is, to give you a little clip here.
Welcome to Red Hawk Central, a one-stop shop for completing any of your student service needs. Our team is here to support you on the phone, through virtual connections, and on campus to answer questions that you, our student, or your family may have. Red Hawk Central is a centralized location where you'll receive support regarding questions about financial aid, your student account or bill, registration, and any other topics you may need assistance with. Our team is here every day to help provide you answers, resources, and to close the loop to connect you with the information you need to succeed. Whether you are brand new to the university or approaching the final steps of your journey, our team is just a call, an email, a click, or visit away. Check our website for our current service options. Red Hawk Central, closing the loop.
All right, so one edit note, we are actually located in Cole Hall. College Hall was the name of the building before it was fully christened for our previous president. So we're in Cole Hall, not College Hall, but that is our contact information as well. All right, so moving on. All right, Sean.
Thanks, Dr. Zerlo. I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit. I know we talked at the beginning when we went over what we were going to kind of talk about today, that we were going to talk about the business of being a student and kind of the concept of wayfinding. So one of the things we wanted to just discuss with you all is the ways in which we kind of support students through that process. So what we have here is just a brief graphic of what it is that we use as a university to help students kind of find their way along the process of going through each of those different things that they might need to do as a student. So just drawing some attention to it, our main hub, the main area that students are using day to day, and we'll get further into this in a moment, is our Nest system. It's a single sign-on feature that allows students to get all the information that's on their account, look at their financial aid, make payments, see bills, all the other stuff that you might be doing. It's also where they can update personal information, go and register for classes, all the fun stuff that we would go through. So really it's our main area, and students become very familiar with it very quickly. For those of you who are looking to attend at Montclair, it's also a place in which you may have been on already to pay a deposit or to look at a financial aid award, those kind of things. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. We also like to advertise that we are a Google Suite school. So when you claim your NetID with the university, you're also claiming really the entire package of the Google Suite. So you will have an @Montclair email address, but it's powered through the Google Suite. So with that, you would get, the Gmail, the Google Sheets and Docs and slides and all those other things that we can kind of work to share globally and go through that process. One of the things we also like to draw attention to is how updated and how there's a huge breadth of information that's actually on our website. So we gently put down montclair.edu down here just because there is a huge ability to get a lot of information about processes and definitions and all the other stuff that we might be looking up as you go on to this first step into potentially becoming a Red Hawk. We really like to draw attention to the search bar that's in there. So if there's something that you just want to know a little bit more information about, you click on that magnifying glass and it's likely that you'll find some information to get you started. And then certainly that's our team on the back end of that, so that we can discuss and go over kind of some of the anomalies and the back end things that are there as well. We also put a note here to talk about the Montclair State orientation experience, just because its impact on incoming new students and how we can help them to kind of get adjusted to what this university looks like, what our processes look like in comparison to maybe some of the other schools that you've been looking at. Much of that information is actually directed right on the accepted students checklist. So as you're running down, you'll see a lot of information about getting into your Nest account and claiming your NetID and going through some of those processes all the way down to the orientation experience. So certainly if you have a free opportunity, take a look at that, because there's a whole bunch of information that's out there for it. So now that I chatted about that, let's actually talk about the Nest account, because I think this is what we're calling the gateway. Really the information is all there. So you're going to see this is just a snapshot of what this site would actually look like. It's a little bit deceiving because the first thing that you see here is the apply for graduation tab. We grabbed this from one of our senior students, so you won't always see the apply for graduation tab, but the cool part is that it's updated based on your student and your students where they are along their path in this journey. So this student being closer to graduation populates a portlet at the top that shows that they are ready to apply for graduation. But you can see on the left-hand side all of the different tabs that are there associated. There's an announcement tab, so certainly important information will be sent directly to your student via email. And then in addition, if we think it's really important, we're going to throw it into the Nest account just because they're probably logging in a couple of times a day. So this is a good opportunity for them to be kind of throwing that information that way. Here you also see some different student resources that we collect there. And in addition, some proxy access, which we can chat about as well, just to go through kind of the FERPA process with students. But let's dive a little bit deeper. So I think for the first one, we're going to look specifically at that register for classes tab. So as we're talking about register for classes, this is really where you're going to see all the tools related to registering for classes and understanding the accounts, taking a look at the different schedules that are out there. Now, for new and incoming students, these schedules are built on behalf of students as the students are depositing, and that's money is being, excuse me, that information is being sent over to our advisor crew. They're creating schedules based on kind of some of the things that you're putting down in that first survey that you see on the accepted students checklist. Going forward, students will have the opportunity to kind of work with their advisors and start registering themselves. So you're seeing some of the tools here that populate under the Register for Classes tab. A lot of things here are directly related to registration specifically. You'll also see some other things when it comes down to requesting an enrollment verification if you need to prove that you're going to school for certain reasons. In addition to requesting a transcript or reviewing unofficial transcripts, all that information that's there so that you can go through that process. There's also some information about connecting with your advisor. So if you're seeing in the top right here, there's an academic advising tab, and it will allow you to actually go in and set an appointment with your advisors to go through that process as well. As we move on to the next section here, you're seeing the student accounts tab. Now this is really important, and Dr. Zerla will touch on this in a little bit, just specifically to the student accounts piece, but really important for where you would actually go in and see and view your bill. So as students are registering for classes and getting a sense of what this will look like, getting into housing and all the other charges that would be applied to a bill, you'll be actually able to view them directly through the student's Nest account. This is exciting because this bill is actually live. So as a student goes through and actually clicks to add a class, whatever it might be, you'll be able to see those charges directly on their bill immediately. Now, we also offer things like going through and getting an invoice. Those are a little less live. We send out twice a month. I believe Dr. Zerla is going to get a little bit more in depth into that in a second. But it's also the place where you'll be able to see information about health insurance waivers, in addition to actually going through and paying a bill if you're choosing to do that virtually. And we'll discuss those options for payments in a moment. But this is really where you're going to be able to see the majority of information directly about the bill, how to make payments, set up payment plans, all those fun things that a student will be doing with their account. So finally, the last one that you see here is the financial aid piece. And this is obviously just as important because this is where you can go and actually take a look to see what does your aid package look like. For students that have additional requirements that they need to walk through and be able to get taken care of, they'll also be listed here so the student knows exactly what needs to be done in order to get their account up to date as it is. You'll see different notices about requirements and award notices. It's also where you would go in and accept or decline your financial aid awards. So it's something to get really comfortable with when the student gets here to campus. Again, we know that there's all these things that are in there. So certainly I know this feels like a lot of information at one time, but your students become very quickly adept at using it. So it's pretty exciting because it's all in one place and really you can click around and get a sense of all the different services and different ways that a student can kind of navigate through their account and make some of these decisions. So that's really the wayfinding piece there. I believe I'm sending it back over to Dr. Zerla to chat a little bit about the student accounts piece here.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I'm assuming you'll probably have the sense at this point, Sean DePauli and I are excited to spend this hour with you, but there's so much in the Nest account alone or just on our website that we could take a couple hours to actually deep dive in. And hey, if no one's got anything better to do tonight, I'm in. I'll totally stay. But I have a feeling most of y'all have other stuff to do this evening. So what we want to do is at least give the overview of some of these things to really just start the conversation and then give you some opportunity for any follow-up as needed. So regarding student accounts, I know that that Sean was showing in Nest the page specifically labeled student accounts in that program. And so what we wanted to do is just give you a little bit more of a texture for some of what you will see, not necessarily laid out the way it is in the Nest account. And we do invite you to walk through that very, very closely with your students to actually see all the different portlets and information. But from the concept of student accounts as an umbrella, there's a few different pieces here. There's the tuition and fee rate side of the house. And some of you, if you've been looking at if your students had submitted a FAFSA, if they've received their financial aid award for next year, they also got a cost of attendance document as well, and that's called our college financing plan. So it's a PDF email that comes to them. That information also lives in their Nest account, and that's directly associated with the concept of our tuition and fees. And you see on here that we've listed out a little bit for you the context of in-state rate for students, whether you're an out-of-state student, full-time versus part-time. There's also rates specific to housing if your student's going to be a residential on-campus student versus commuting. Also meal plan options, and then student fees. There's all these different elements that actually go into and collapse together when we're talking about a cost of attendance and talking about the fees and what may be charged to students per semester. And so certainly one of the things that our office can do and be a resource for is to help break down any confusion or interpret any of those documents or that information if there's any questions there. So one part of the student account and the wayfinding is understanding those tuition and fees and those blocks, if you will, the building blocks of how that gets put together. The other part of it is billing. So along with Nest, which we did touch on, there's also some other elements that we do want to make sure we just verbally point out to give you a sense of where to start. So along with the Nest page for student accounts, there's also the TouchNet system, which is our live billing payment system. That's all accessible through Nest. And the TouchNet system is actually where you and or your student, depending on how you negotiate the plan moving forward, will really be working out of, because the TouchNet system is where you actually will be able to see the live, fully up-to-date insight regarding billing once billing's available for the fall. You'll also be able to see payment plan information. You'll be able to see information about setting up direct deposit, how refunds need to be handled. All of that can actually be set up through TouchNet. So it's a really useful system that we really encourage students and families to go in and work through and make sure that they understand. The PDF invoice statement, along with the concept of billing and the information being in Nest and TouchNet, we also do as a university directly communicate the bill through a PDF invoice that actually comes to students twice a month. And I think we touched on that earlier. So the students will get through their Montclair University email, they will get on the 1st and the 15th of every month a PDF statement for their bill. Now, having said that, keep in mind that that is a print, that's it's a reported invoice statement. So it is current as of when it's created and when it's pushed. So we always say that yes, twice a month they will get this information to be able to act on and share with you or move to whomever. But the live information will always live in TouchNet to be accessible whenever it's convenient. So all of that does work together. And then, as I mentioned before, TouchNet will also allow setting up direct deposit. And also there is something that's called an authorized user, so that if you all are looking to end up being the ones that are managing the payments, managing how things are getting handled, then you can go in and actually set that up so you have direct login access to do that. So that's the sense of the tuition and fees and the billing side. Now, the other piece or pieces, one of which is payment options, and that's also just as important. And so this is just a summary of the options available. All this is also detailed out on the Montclair website. If you just go to our website and at the magnifying glass type in payment options, you're going to pull up all this information. So the top level stuff that we always want to touch on are that there's a few ways to do this. There's the cashier's office right here in Cole Hall, adjacent to Red Hawk Central. And they work specifically with students who are paying with cash, check, and or money order. They can work with any of the above. So that's an option here on site. So students who are going to live on campus, or when you're if you're local enough to come in and visit, you can certainly do that. We also will offer a tuition payment plan every fall and spring term. That's another convenient option for paying for the account. And that can be done in 5, 4, or 3-month installments. And there's a whole website built out about tuition payment plans online that you're welcome to review. Right now, the information is still reflecting spring because we haven't rolled over for next fall yet, but it would give you a really good taste for what that will look like. There's also the e-check option. So a lot of our families sometimes will set up the routing information to do an e-check payment from either their checking or savings account. That can be done online through TouchNet in the Nest system. Students, again, can pay with check or money order. They can also pay with credit or debit card, again, online. They can do that. And then we do also have families that are using a lot of their college 529 plans. So there's also information online about that. So there's a spectrum of options regarding payment as well. So we just want to make sure that we give you a sense of that. And then with deadlines, as with anything, anytime there's a bill or anything due, there's always ultimately an end date and a deadline. So the way that that gets pushed is a couple of things. One, there's always a due date for any of our billing cycles. There's specifically a payment deadlines website, which will lay out some of those very important dates for everyone. So the payment deadlines website is very useful. And there's also the important dates for students website, which again, you can just search for important dates for students, and it will actually pull up a list of all of our dates for any number of processes on campus, one of which will certainly be our billing information. So that's a good resource as well. All right, Sean, your part now.
This is where I get to pick up
Yeah.
back again. I know one of the key pieces here that we typically see with incoming new students is both understanding and getting a sense of what your financial aid package looks like. One of the things that we sent out, and I think Dr. Zerillo touched on this briefly, is the college financing plan. We think that that's one of the more important pieces. So for those of you who may have attended one of the Accepted Students Days, we pretty much probably went through that with you just to get a sense of what it looks like and how it goes there. We did prep a brief video just to go over what that financing plan looks like. So we just wanted to share that with you now.
After you've submitted your application for financial aid, the Financial Aid Office will review your eligibility and issue you an initial award letter. This typically is a PDF that we call a shopping sheet, which is emailed to you, and the information is made available on your Nest account. The top half is an itemized cost of attendance. The bottom half lays out your award offer and shows the difference between what you're estimated to be charged and what you're estimated to receive in financial aid, so that you have a realistic idea of what balance you might still be responsible for either out of pocket or through additional aid. Here's an example of what the estimated cost of attendance might look like. Typically, we'd recommend focusing on the portion labeled direct costs, as these represent what would actually be on your bill. The indirect expenses are items that the school would not be directly billing you through your student account. These are here to help you budget for additional expenses that may arise depending on your circumstances. Some of you may be seeing housing or meal plan charges listed when you plan on commuting to school. This usually means that you indicated on the FAFSA that you were planning to live on campus. When you receive your official bill, which for the fall semester usually comes out at the end of July, these items would not be included unless you have separately taken action to register for housing or sign up for a meal plan. Further down on your shopping sheet, you will see an estimated family contribution, or EFC, which is a number calculated by the FAFSA application that puts you in a certain range of eligibility for grants or loans. The Grants and Scholarships section itemizes any grants or scholarships that have been awarded to you per semester. At the bottom, the Loans section shows the federal Stafford loans that are currently in their offered state for you to accept or decline through Nest. And the red box labeled What You Will Pay for College shows a direct net cost and total net cost. The direct net cost takes the direct cost that we've been looking at earlier, just those items that you'd be directly billed for through your student account, and compares them to your grants and scholarships. The total net cost compares the grants and scholarships to some of those estimated indirect expenses for students who may need to factor in paying for books or transportation to and from campus. The award will also be available to view on Nest. If you log into your Nest account and click on the Financial Aid tab, you are going to want to scroll all the way down to the Financial Aid Awards portlet and click on Awards. The example shown here is from a graduate student's account, so the only awards available are a Stafford loan offer, which can be accepted through the Select Decision drop-down option.
Okay, great. So I know most of you should be at a sense where if you filed the FAFSA and if you've put Montclair State as one of the schools that will receive that we should either have already created or will be creating this college financing plan to give you a sense of if there are out-of-pocket costs or if there will be something that you will need to pay if you were to come here. Now, again, just given the point of time that we're at, what we've given are estimated amounts when it comes to financial aid, and certainly estimated amounts when it comes to what we're projecting our billing to look like for next fall and next spring. The only reason that is we just have to wait on our Board of Trustees to meet and finalize some of those costs. So certainly as we get closer, you'll get a sense of exactly what those costs are. Right now, we give those projected costs that are pretty close. So the where do I start piece, this is where we always suggest to students, it's the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. If you haven't done that already, it's certainly not too late. The one piece that you will have to do is just remember to put Montclair State University as one of the receiving schools if you choose to send that information to Montclair State. I believe you can put up to 10 schools on there, and it doesn't hurt you to put them on there. So if we're in that consideration, we would suggest that you send it over just so you can review the college financing plan. That's what triggers us to actually create that on your behalf. Certainly, if there's already been a FAFSA created and we're kind of a new school to you, you can go back into that FAFSA and actually add in our school so that we will also create that step for you. Once you're at that point, certainly that you'll be able to view that college financing plan and get a sense of what that looks like. So we chatted a little bit about that. I think a couple of the do's and don'ts that we wanted to quickly go over just as we're here tonight, just about financial aid, and especially as we go through it, because there's so much to understand about the financial aid process. And one of our call agents had briefly gone through some of it, but financial aid really spans over a whole bunch of different things. So I think one of the first things that we want to know is just understanding what the different types of financial aid are. Most students will say that if they're grant eligible, that's great. It's a form of financial aid. Grants typically come from the federal or state government and kind of reflect a payment to your account that you would not have to pay back. It's a gifted amount of money that's sent to your account. Most of that is dependent upon a student's need. So that's where it's populated based on the federal and state formulas to determine whether or not you're eligible for those. In addition, students are typically offered things like unsubsidized and subsidized Stafford loans. Now, albeit loan is a thing that you would ultimately pay back after your school journey is ended, it is a part of your financial aid award. So something to consider if you're looking to help cover some of the costs as you come here. In addition, things like federal work study, albeit it's not something that pays directly to your bill, it also falls under a financial aid award, in addition to some scholarships. So for some of you who have some scholarship money that is intended on coming to the university, also falls under your financial aid award. So certainly understanding what those are, making sure that you're accepting and choosing the right options. Certainly if you have questions or concerns about, what's the right option for me, that's why our staff is here, and certainly we'd be happy to walk you through some of those options after you review the website and your shopping sheets and so on and so forth. So I think I buried the lead there again, just with the review of the shopping sheet. It's also important to know when your aid is going to pay to your account. We only say that because certain students who need additional funding might look into something like a Parent Plus loan or a private loan to add onto their account to help some of the additional payments. With some of those, they can be weeks to months for those loans to actually pay through. So understanding how long it might take so that you're doing the applications in enough time. As we mentioned, through some of those deadlines with the university, they can come quickly when it comes down to August. So making sure that you have all the things in order leading up to that time helps kind of stay on track and make sure you don't fall behind in any type of way. And then understanding what impacts your package. So certainly this is when you're filing your FAFSA and understanding all the different things that would impact what your actual award would look like. And certainly chatting with us if you have concerns or want to chat about what that looks like and how it is. So we have a couple of don'ts here, and I think I talked about this already. Don't wait on doing the FAFSA. The first F stands for free. So certainly there's no downside to you doing and get a sense of what it looks like. We typically hear, well, I don't think I'm going to get anything. Why would I do it? We always suggest, well, at least do it and see if you don't, because certainly if there's an opportunity to get additional funding, it pretty much starts with that FAFSA. Again, if you see that your package is not enough to cover your bill, we said don't wait, think about different options. Come chat with us when it comes to payment plans or additional types of loan funding or different scholarships and all the different ways that students can help kind of cover the difference in their balance. And again, we kind of briefly talked about this, but don't be afraid to look into work opportunities on campus. I briefly talked about the federal work study. There's also office assistants on campus. So there's different ways to get involved. DePauli is probably the perfect example of one of those situations in which get involved and be able to kind of help out with that process. And then again, don't hesitate to reach out. This can be very confusing for those of you who are in your very first process or this may be the first time going to college, or even if you have 3 other children, you might know that it's different at every school, or it might feel a little bit daunting as you're going through that process. So review your resources and then certainly reach out to us. We have so many different ways in which you can kind of connect with us and have that piece. Dr. Solo, I think I'm throwing it back over to you.
All right, I'm ready to catch. All right. So I guess the good news is that we're actually winding down with the official content of this evening. We try to go through it as hefty a pace as possible, just because we want to make sure we leave time for the questions that may arise, whether it's good of the order questions that we can actually talk with everyone about, or whether it's things that are a little bit more specific to individual matters. So what we have here certainly as a starting point is just some baseline contact information. We invite you, if you'd like to screenshot the slide here, so that you know how to actually connect with us. We do have a live chat that we offer during our business hours here on campus. So that's on our website. We would welcome any visits directly to Cole Hall. It's a beautiful building, and we have a great facility here, as well as email and phone, as well as following us on Insta. All of that is a viable option just to connect and to kind of stay up to date with any of the information that we're trying to push out to our students and families. We welcome all of the interaction that we can. The more communication and connection we have, we find the easier it is for the wayfinding and really getting on the path and making a very strong experience. So I think after this, our big finale is if we have questions, right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. Save the best for last.
I'll echo kind of the same thing. I really appreciate everyone who spent some time with us. I'm going to temporarily stop the screen share in a moment. So if you want to quickly take down the information, or certainly for those of you who want to take a shot with your camera, whatever it might be, we're also relatively easy to find on the website. So certainly you can take down the information. I'll take it down in a couple of minutes and help out with some of the question and answer as well.
Excellent. Okay, so DePauli, I'm not sure if you can see the Q&A that's coming through as well as the chat, but I was gonna tackle in the Q&A section. We had a question about if individuals defer acceptance for a term, how may that affect any merit awards or anything that's being offered? That's a really great question. And so the recommendation in cases where students are eligible for any type of merit awarding, let me pause for a second. So merit awarding is something that's issued at the point of admission based on a student's academic record and evaluation. So students that are eligible for any merit award are offered that typically to come in for the fall semester if that's how they're being admitted. And if you've been offered that award, but maybe are deciding to delay or maybe move your admission to the spring, then you would actually be you want to follow up with undergraduate admissions to discuss your plans with them. Typically, that does not negate or prevent you from being eligible as we move forward into the spring. But that does require a conversation up front to just discuss your plans to make sure that you have things in order. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that's how you would follow up there. Hopefully that answered the question. Let's see. And there's a question about opportunities to work on campus and finding jobs. And so there's a couple options I could suggest there. Obviously, students that, as part of their aid award, that again, there may be eligibility through the federal government for work study based on a student's eligibility and financial need. So that's one opportunity, because then students on campus can actually work with different offices on campus that have work study student teams that work in their areas. There's also students who may not qualify for work study and are looking to engage on campus with on-campus employment. And so we have career services here on campus who actually serve as a resource to all of our students. And so what they do is there's usually job fairs that they host each semester. There's offices on campus that are actually hire student workers or student assistants to work in those areas. And so career services can be a great resource. There's a general career services resource for students, and there's also career centers in the colleges and schools. So there's a variety of ways that students can connect. They can actually reach out for opportunities in their specific college or school area and or generally on the campus as a whole. So that is another opportunity as well if you're looking for employment. So I hope that answered the question. Let's see. Okay, okay, and we have a Q&A from Chris, I believe, who was asking how to actually access the account and to go into TouchNet and pay the bill. And so and this hopefully is good of the order for anyone sharing this presentation this evening. So the Nest access, the account information is the student's login information. And what the students can do when we specifically had mentioned TouchNet, they do have the option to set you all up as authorized users for TouchNet. So specifically, you would be able to ultimately get your own login to go into the TouchNet payment system only if you're going to be going in to facilitate the bill. If you're asking about access to Nest, though, to actually see all of those different pages and the portlets and to get all of that information, that would rely on the student's login information. So one of the things that I think Sean and I and DePauli, what we would say is that really warrants some family conversation about, how is this information going to be shared? Who's going to be accessing it? Getting all of that on the table up front so that everyone's on the same page. And then hopefully if everyone's working as a unit, then parents can actually go in and actually manage some of that as well as the student. So I hope that answered the question. Let's see. Sean, someone has a question here about an outside scholarship. What would you recommend? What would be a thought to guide that?
Yeah, so I would suggest that you kind of take a peruse of our scholarships page. I'm trying to find the question, Dr. Zerlo. Is it specifically about applying out to them?
Well, it says, I think Sue had asked, what if you've been awarded an outside scholarship? How's that applied? So I wasn't sure if you had any thoughts to.
So yeah, really, it actually depends on the company that's offering that scholarship. So some of them will send it directly to the university, and what normally happens with those outside scholarships, it will accompany what's called an award letter to go with it. What that does is allow our student accounts department to know where to apply that money. So for example, if a student were to receive $1,000 from a scholarship, but that is to be broken up, 500 in the fall, 500 in the spring, they would send that award letter to us. We would have it applied to their account so we know how that would go through, and the money would be sent directly to the university. Some scholarship agencies will actually send that money directly to the student. In that circumstance, it's just cash in hand. You would determine how you would pay that directly to the university. If there's any questions about that, certainly we can walk through, because it depends on the agency that's offering that. If their suggestion is that they would connect with the university directly, then they're going to send that money on the student's behalf. The only thing that we would gently ask is that if you have a CWID that's associated with it, that you give that to the scholarship committee so we make sure that we don't make mistakes about where that money is applied and to who it would be applied to. Not sure if that helps get some clarity on that.
Perfect. Let's see, what else do we have pending here? You guys are asking a lot of great questions and we appreciate it. And we're not aiming to not necessarily give you a personal answer to some of the questions, but the things that we think are relevant perhaps to others on the session, we're just trying to make sure that we top level address it so everyone can share. Certainly, I know DePauli had pushed out the contact information for our office. So if you're pushing any real personal question over that you would need more of a direct account review, we certainly have no problem doing a follow-up with you. So just make sure that you're reaching out to us and indicating you came to our session and then you're looking for a deeper dive, and we can have that conversation. Okay, let's see. So I don't see any. Okay, so there's questions here about some of the financial aid as far as someone indicated they've applied for a loan, but can they fill out an application for a grant? So without knowing the specifics of the account, the grants, if we're talking about the federal and or state, so the Pell Grant or the TAG, those are actually assigned based on FAFSA review. So on the federal side, the Pell Grant would be awarded if a student has eligibility based on the estimated family contribution. The TAG for the state of New Jersey with HESA, that would be part of the package, again, if they're eligible for state funding. So there isn't necessarily an application for a grant, if you will, because those are actually done based on FAFSA review specifically. So having said that, If the question coming to us is based on a student who isn't getting awarded those grants specifically, then that may very well likely mean that the EFC, the estimated family contribution, is possibly moving them out of the eligibility category. And so there are some options that our team could certainly suggest as far as, depending on your circumstance, perhaps having an appeal request to see if there's any other aid eligibility available, and or if there's any other options that we could present. I would recommend you follow up directly with our office if you want us to look at the account specifically, just so we can do a little bit more of a direct answer. Okay, and I see a question on, okay, Sean, you're addressing the question about the honors program. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Someone asked about how financially sound is Montclair. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand the question to answer that, but we're certainly in a very good place. We had a very strong freshman class last year. We have a very high yield of applications this year as well. So financially, we're in a good place. There's really nothing I'm aware of that I would answer in any other fashion. So I'm hoping that answers your question. Excellent questions, everybody. We appreciate it. Let's see. I don't see anything else on the floor we haven't answered. I don't know if anyone else has any other question that you might want to throw our way. Or again, feel free to just utilize our contact information if you're looking for more of a direct connect. I think, Sean DePauli, remind me, I don't know if we really specifically discussed the FERPA proxy, but I'm wondering if maybe we should just clarify that while we have another moment of everyone's time. So one of the slides that Sean had showed earlier in NEST, it's the registration page, had a proxy access portlet on it. And I always think there's value in mentioning this to any of our families, whether your students accepted or maybe considering Montclair, because our FERPA proxy access process, which students connect into and do through NEST, it allows them to set up any individuals that they're authorizing to actually ask questions and or get information on the account. So the proxy access is something that needs to be established, and the students have the opportunity to go in and actually set the terms, if you will, for the access, meaning that, you know, whether you can talk about anything, or, hey, you're only able to talk about financial aid, or, hey, I want you to know about my grades or my bill. And so there's some flexibility for the student to really set those boundaries. And so we are very excited to always work with families and guests in support of our students. But we want to do that in a very transparent, above board way. So the FERPA proxy allows us to do that, and it ensures that the privacy rights of the student are enforced, so that either proxy is in play, which means we can talk about whatever needs to be talked about, or if proxy isn't in play, then that's when we have to say that only we can discuss this with the student to support their rights. But we always want to mention that that is available, so that as we start to move forward towards the fall, if your students are going to be attending here, the proxy could be put in motion. And then if you needed to call with any questions and that's in play already, then we would be able to actually support and answer those questions more directly versus just being able to give very general information. So I hope that was helpful. That's just a little note. Okay, and I see that some of our team are answering questions about different awards. And so a couple questions have come up about the merit award. To be very transparent with you all, there certainly are criterion in play for the merit scholarships. Those are actually evaluated and determined, again, at the point of admission by the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. So our office, for better or worse, really couldn't be very direct with you as to exactly what the rubric and those criterion are, because we are not associated with that process. What we would suggest, if there's questions or concern about feeling as though something wasn't offered, but you feel as though it should have been, or why was this not something that was offered? That's always a conversation that could happen, that could be engaged with undergraduate admissions. Again, also, if there's a concern about what offer has been made as far as the award and the hope of maybe there could be some reconsideration, our office could follow up with you directly and look at the account and then offer any suggestion maybe about any type of appeal or just a review. So both avenues could be available. Okay. Are you all still working on any direct questions? I can't tell.
I am not.
No.
currently.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Merits
And DePauli, I
policy.
think you're responding to someone. Looks like.
No, I didn't know what like.
Oh, for the
I
average,
answered, yeah.
the average financial aid package.
Yeah.
The average, one of our participants asked about an average financial aid award, and to be honest with you, there really isn't just one set answer, because again, it does
Yeah.
depends on the estimated family contribution and need eligibility. So there are students who, if they have the highest need, will have a Pell grant, a federal Pell grant, potentially a TAG state grant if they're eligible with the state, and then Stafford loan eligibility. So that could be a full package, and then potentially work study, again, if they're eligible. There's a number of factors. So it could be, on that end, and then it could also be someone that may only be eligible for federal Stafford loans if the need eligibility isn't as high. So is definitely a spectrum. There isn't just kind of a one size fits all, but that's usually the kind of gamut that I would suggest. So hopefully that helps. Okay. Well, I don't see any other active new questions, but I do so very much thank you all very much for your time this evening, and we do hope this was useful and helpful. We realize it's a little bit of a balcony overview of the wayfinding concept and what our office is here to do, but if nothing else, we're leaving you wanting more, so that you actually can follow up with us, and whether it's on site or virtually, and get that information, and or really nudge your students to come in and start working with us as soon as they can, because that's what we're here to do, and we love what we do. So I thank you so much. Thank you to Sean and DePauli for all your great work. We appreciate it. We'll start kind of shutting down slowly. So if you have any last minute questions y'all want to shove in, feel free. And if not, please do follow up with us through our contact information, and we wish you the best evening. Have a great one.